Madhu sir, you can start the program.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
A very good morning to one and all. On behalf of VELAMMAL Institute of Technology, I would like to welcome our esteemed chief guest, Dr. Thayyaba Khatoon Mohammed, who has agreed to be a resource person for this AICTE-sponsored Sttp on assessment and engineering education, a pedagogical approach. We welcome you, ma'am. I also would like to take the opportunity to welcome all the participants who have come near and far for this virtual Sttp on assessment and engineering education. It is my duty to welcome the coordinator as well as the head of the department, as well as my beloved faculty members for this Sttp. Now, let me just briefly explain to you about the objectives of this Sttp. Now, assessment, as we say, is considered as one of the important role in steering the learning process. However, we cannot confine to one particular methodology as the best assessment method for a course. An assessment plan helps in selecting the right testing method and decides on the relative weight of each assessment for the final result of a course. This also helps to ensure that the assessment addresses the intended learning outcomes, which makes an assessment plan a helpful tool for examiners and an important instrument for quality assurance. An assessment matrix is designed to ensure that all the selected learning objectives are covered in the assessment, which helps you make certain that the assessment will be both valid and reliable. This is done by using different methods to set the cutoff score by using rubrics. The participants will be put forward to apply the quality criteria for the construction of assessments and the assessment items to improve the quality of assessments and education, which have a huge impact on the future education and careers of the students. Now, let me just briefly explain you about the guidelines of this Sttp. I'm sure for all these 4 days, you must have known it, but it is my duty to inform all the participants about the guidelines of this Sttp. Now, participants are solicited to attend all the sessions using the Zoom app, same link. Kindly change your profile name with the participant ID, for example, VIT-STTP001, which was mailed by us in the Excel file. Participants are requested to mute your microphone and camera during the sessions. All are needed to join in this WhatsApp group, which has been provided. Now, as per the AICTE norms, 80% attendance and minimum 60% score has to be secured in all the assessments, which is mandatory to avail the certificate. Now, feedback and attendance in Google Forms will be posted at the end of every session after the question and answer session in the chat box only. Now, assessment in Google Forms will be of MCQ type or short answer type, etc. Now, submit the assessment through the Google Forms only, which will be posted in the WhatsApp group at the end of the day. Now, assessment forms must be submitted before 9:30 a.m. the next day, after which the link will get disabled. Now, all the participants are requested to download the apps which are instructed by the experts during the session as a part of activity in the Sttp. If you have any query, please, I kindly request you to raise your hand in Zoom app. Our session coordinator will assist you. Participants are requested to type all your questions in the chat box, which will be answered by the experts at the end of the sessions. Participants are requested not to post any verbal gestures, for example, good morning, good afternoon, like this in chat box. All the recorded virtual sessions will be available in our YouTube channel at the end of respective slots. If any queries regarding technical issue, please inform us through our WhatsApp group. Now, let me just have the privilege to introduce about our chief guest. Dr. Thayyaba Khatoon Mohammed has completed her PhD in Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University, Hyderabad, and she has also completed her MTech in JNTU, Hyderabad, and BTech in Kakatiya University, Warangal. Madam's area of interest is data mining, machine learning, bioinformatics, artificial intelligence, pattern recognition, neural networks, cloud computing, and cyber security. Madam has published 3 patents and 20 and above research papers in international journals. She has more than 14 years of research experience in teaching computer science and engineering subjects. Madam is serving as a reviewer for various Scopus Index, Science Citation Index, and Taylor and Francis journals. She has organized various symposium, workshops, faculty development programs, and conferences at national and international levels. She has an administrative experience of nearly 8 years as head of the department. She was a chairman of Board of Studies in Autonomous Engineering College. Madam's expertise in NBA, NAC, JNTUH, AICTE, and UGC accreditation process. She has received various funds from DRDO and DST for organizing conferences. Such an eminent personality has come today as a resource person. Ma'am, first of all, at the outset, we'd like to thank from the bottom of the heart for being accepting as a resource person for this AICT sponsored Sttp. So with this notes, introductory note, I just hand over the session to Madam. Ma'am, it's all yours, ma'am. And we are so eagerly waiting to listen to your lecture. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, sir. Respected head of the mechanical department, Professor Kaliyappan, sir, and the coordinators of this STTP, and your participant colleagues. A very good morning, one and all. So before starting the session, I would like to appreciate the Institute of Technology and the head of the department as Kaliyappan sir and the other coordinators for trying to organize this kind of quality based training programs which can improve faculty in various aspects of quality education. Thank you. I would like to start my presentation. Before that, I would like to convey that I want to switch off the video so that people can have a good presentation, good quality of presentation. Is that okay?
Okay, ma'am, as per your wish, ma'am.
Thank you. I think my screen is visible to you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay. So during this past 4 days STTP on assessment in engineering education, all of you participants must have come across so many aspects of quality assessment and outcome-based education, about the accreditation process required in the technical institutes, especially in engineering colleges. You must have come across all these aspects. Today, what we are going to discuss about? Today, we are going to discuss about the aspect related to assessment in engineering education, how can we formulate good assessment questions, how can we formulate the rubrics for assessing the student work, student learning outcomes, how these student learning outcomes are going to impact the quality of engineering education. That is what our today's agenda. My name is Dr. Thayyaba Khatoon. I am professor from Malla Reddy University, Hyderabad. So let me talk about something very important. In India, there are 5,000 engineering colleges. Every year, 1.5 million young engineers are graduating. So among these 5.5 million graduates, how many of them are getting employability? It's a time for us as a faculty to introspect ourselves. How much qualitative teaching methodology that we are providing to students, what are the learning opportunities that we are providing to students to achieve this objective, that is employability. The main objective, the main outcome of any engineering graduate is to place in some company, good company, some kind of employability requirement. So we all know as faculty of engineering colleges and technical institutes how important it is to maintain quality in engineering education so that we can produce young graduates suitable for local and global workspaces. Today, in today's sessions, we are going to explore, as I was mentioning, the formulation of good assessment questions, defining a rubric which will assess the some course specific outcomes. You will able to demonstrate how to provide actionable feedbacks to students in continuous manner so that we can improve the quality of their education. How does the feedback mechanism helps in developing the course specific rubric? We also able to explore about the course specific rubric that effectively communicates the grading criteria required to achieve by the students. So before entering into the topic, so I want to recall that Government of India, for ensuring the quality in engineering education, it has established a National Board of Accreditation under Section 10U AICTE Act in the year 1994. It is established not only for engineering education but also for management, pharmacy, architecture, and related discipline. So this itself speaks that how important it is to have quality education in all the aspects, in all the fields that the graduates are coming out. Today, in this context of STTP, let us explore the importance of outcome-based education. So if you see this particular slide, I have mentioned the important points about the student learning outcomes. So why do we need to talk about student learning outcomes in assessment process? Because what we are going to assess the student learning outcomes only. During the engineering program, during the 4 years of study, what is the engineering graduates are expected to learn that defines the student learning outcome. So what we are going to assess is their knowledge, their skills, their behaviors, their attitudes that need to be acquired during this 4 years of engineering program. So what does this student learning outcome is going to achieve? The student learning outcomes, if it is achieved, that means the program educational objectives are achieved. So what are program educational objectives? For example, engineering program, if you take. So every engineering program will have some program educational objectives set up, goals set up, the student need to achieve. So the student will achieve these program educational objectives through student learning outcomes. So from there, where we are going to draw this student learning outcomes, we are going to draw the student learning outcomes from the objective setup, and the program educational objectives are achieved through the professional core courses of a specific engineering discipline. For example, it is CSE, RECE, or any other branch of study. Depending on the professional core courses outcome, we are able to map the program outcomes and also the program educational objectives. This is how the individual institutions are getting accredited from the Government of India, from the NBA. So if you see this particular slide, this represent the assessment cycle. If you see this assessment cycle, the first step in assessment cycle is establishing the learning goals. So as I was mentioning, every institution must need to establish some kind of educational objectives, some graduate attributes which are drawn from either ABET or NBA of India. So from those graduate attributes, what does these graduate attributes represent? These graduate attributes represent what the student need to learn throughout their engineering program. So establish these learning goals, like formulating the course objectives, student learning outcomes, and then providing the learning opportunities. What we call is teaching learning process, how we are going to provide the learning opportunities. One methodology is through teaching. There are so many ways one can teach. When we are physically moving to the institutions, so many like talk and chalk, LCD, usage of LCD, so many modern tools usage in teaching was introduced. Now this is COVID time, we are all at homes. How are we fulfilling the how are we fulfilling this learning opportunities, how we are providing a platform to the students to learn something. So this is online teaching methodology. So there are so many pedagogies available, so many opportunities that we provide to students to learn particular courses, to and we assess these student learning aspects with the different assessment methods, student works like assessments, assignments, projects, and their mid examinations, their external examinations. So the students' works are going to be assessed on different assessment methodologies, different assessment measures. So after assessing the student work, after assessing the student learning, so we are collecting the data in the form of like quantitative, in the form of qualitative like comments, in the form of some rubrics. We collect the information, and this information we use to understand whether student has achieved particular goals or not. So we try to calculate the attainment of course outcomes, we try to calculate the attainment of program outcomes. So with that we will try to find out whether student has reached the learning goals that we have set up or not. So that's why this is a cycle process. Once we get the results of the students, from the results of the students, like assessment is not just the exams conduction. Okay, assessment are so many ways we assess the student. So from that we collect the information, we collect the evidences. Based on the evidences we say that particular attainment is achieved or not. The particular attainment is achieved, it's okay. If not, again we will try to modify the curriculum that we have designed, the gaps that are present in the curriculum, and the teaching pedagogy that we follow. We try to change the pedagogy, we try to change the methodology that we follow. We try to change the course outcomes that we have set up for. So there are so many ways we apply transformational assessment. So what is assessment aims at? So the assessment mainly aims at achieving, so some objectives. The what are those objectives? What are those student learning outcomes? So how these objectives are going to be achieved. So the objectives, the outcomes, the student learning outcomes are achieved through learning, through certification. What happens when a student able to achieve the learning outcomes? So the quality is assured. So if you see, these are the three parameters, three objectives set up for achieving the student learning outcomes. So in learning, so we have to motivate students to involve themselves, like not only like they're listening to the topic, they should able to assess, they should they should able to understand, they should able to interpret what is the topic that we are delivering in the class. We should able to diagnose the strengths and weakness of the students, like what is the level of learning the student have. And we should provide feedback to the students continuously, based on the content that they are learning, what level of they are able to learn. So if we try to give the feedback continuously, which is called a formative assessment, then the student able to correct themselves, and the feedback which we provide, it should not be evaluation process, part of evaluation process. It should be like encouraging the student to correct themselves in learning something. So we should always help students to develop their ability for self-assessment practices. It is not that we always conduct the exams, we always give the feedback. We have to make the student also to describe themselves, the qualities that they have in terms of learning some topic, and then informing the achievement level at the end of the unit of study. After every unit, different organizations follow different criteria. They conduct unit test and find out the slow learners and fast learners. From that, a separate pedagogy is followed for fast learners, a separate pedagogy is followed for slow learners. So next objective is like a certification. Why it is very important to have certificate when you learn something? So people recognize your learning capacity through certifications. So it is very important for the young graduates to get placed in some companies to have certifications. So establishing the achievement level at the end of the program of study. So what is the student need to achieve? For example, like if you take, we have some CGPA setups, we have some percentages set up, like previously we used to have like distinction level, first class level, second class, like we have to it is not that you have to set up like distinction, first class, this scale. We have to set up some achievement levels at the end of the program study, so that students will try to reach to that goal. Passing or failure of a student, we need to inform the status of their study, status of their performance. We need to grade a students in a course and a program. Like individual course we will grade the student, and overall consolidatedly we will assess the student based on the program. And then granting a license to practice a profession. For example, if somebody want to become a software engineer, so the what the required eligibility criteria they should have, they should be graduated in engineering. They should have a BTech degree in some kind of branch of study, like computer science engineering or software engineering or information technology, something like that, so that they will get license to practice that profession. And we should always assess students for employment. Like why do technical institutes follow training, campus recruitment training and placement activities? Because it is very important for us to encourage students for the employment opportunities, and also predicting the future performance of a student based on the knowledge and skills and in a course. So what is the level of achievement, a level of knowledge acquirers that they have. Based on that, we need to predict the future performance also of the student. And then quality assurance. So what we talk about in engineering education or any other education is the quality assurance is a very important parameter which the AICT look forward to, for which the AICT has established this apex bodies, various apex bodies for the accreditation process. So how do we assure the quality? What does this assess the quality? Is whether the program objectives are like program educational objectives, the outcomes that we have set up for the programs are achieved or not. So we can assure the quality by these attainments, like program outcome attainments of a specific program, and the courses designed for the program. So if the course outcomes are attained, if the program outcomes are attained, then the quality is assured in that particular aspect. And it also examines the effectiveness of the learning environment, like how effective the students are going to learn in a particular environment. Like they have sufficient facilities in the institutions, like we have library facility, we have digital library facility, because now people cannot move physically to the colleges and to have physical library movement. So providing digital environment for the students to learn. And do we follow any kind of learning platforms, LMS platforms, which make student to learn new kind of skills? It also provides feedback to the course teachers regarding their teaching effectiveness, like what level of teaching that we are following, whether the teaching that we are the teaching methodology that we are following is enough for the students to learn particular course outcomes, or to learn particular outcomes of the course or not. Every time we need to assess ourselves, and there should be a feedback mechanism followed. We in engineering colleges, we follow like 2 to 3 times feedback mechanism, either online feedback mechanism or offline feedback mechanism, from the stakeholders, from the students, to assess particular teachers. It also assures interested parties like employers about the standards of the program. So, how do we judge particular technical institute is, well established or like well maintaining the standards? So, because of attainment levels, we can say that particular institution is having standards. So, it also encourages good practices, best practices in the respective profession, like engineering profession. Okay. So, what is assessment? Assessment is the engine which drives student learning. So, through assessment, we can, find out what level the student learning is at. We can assess the student learning with respect to cognitive domain, with respect to psychometric domain, with respect to affective domain. So, with different domains, domains of learning, we can assess the student learning and what we want students who learn throughout the year. But what actually happens? What actually happens is the student only revise before the exams. It is like night out before the exam, study all the course content, before the exam, before the day of the exam, and write the exam. It is just for getting evaluated. It is not that student is aiming to learn some content, achieve skills out of it, achieve knowledge out of it. So these are the things which we need to really think about. What we want is students who pay attention to the entire curriculum. But what they try to find out what will be on the exam. Like they will try to ask us, like, madam, what unit you are going to concentrate in final examinations, like which are the units very much important for the final examinations. They just concentrate on that. We want that students always take our feedback and use it for learning, so use it to improvise their learning outcomes. But no, they don't. They just come for us when they submit assignments, when they want marks, when they come for lab exams. So that is what happening in real time. We What we want is to engage students, with some kind of activities, some kind of memorizing task. Uh, but 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 uh, like, what is the fact is that students just want to stay away from this, just want to concentrate on final exams, and just want to get grades without knowledge and without skills. Coming to engineering education, why it is very important to have quality assessment in engineering education. As I was mentioning before, the National Board of Accreditation, it conducts evaluation of programs, evaluation of engineering programs of technical institutes on the basis of some norms. There are so many norms through, like faculty placements, their teaching learning process, continuous improvement. So what we are going to focus on in today's STTP is the teaching learning process, because teaching and learning is a process which is going to assess in engineering education for quality improvement. So what I want to say is teaching learning process should be mutual. Like, you give feedback to students on their learning and take feedback from the students to improve your teaching methodologies. So I will do this at the end of the session. Coming to outcome-based education. So why it is very important to have outcome-based education? This I have collected from one of the NBA workshops, in which one of the professor mentioned that their alumni, one of the professor from IIT mentioned that their alumni, she is now a Malaysian citizen. She did her BTech in mechanical engineering from IIT Kanpur in 1997, but still, she is waiting to become a graduate member with Board of Engineers Malaysia. Why? Why? Because IIT programs are not accredited, are not recognized by NBA. So it is very important to have institutes having accreditation, which will ensure the quality education in engineering colleges. Why outcome-based education? What is the need of accreditation? So we are in the era of globalization. We are not just only looking forward to the opportunities available in the local space. We are also trying to look for the opportunities. The skills that graduates are learning can be helpful in working in the global space also. So that means this mainly focus on understanding the fundamentals of engineering courses and learning new competencies, because the world requires new competencies with the demands of changing the rapidly changing workplaces. It is required to upgrade our skills. It is required to acquire new competencies. For example, when I was graduating, when I was doing my engineering, there was only C language that we had, like for doing the projects. And then we have learned about Java, we have learned about the object-oriented programming languages, different object-oriented programming languages for the development of the softwares. Now, if you see, the era has changed a lot. There are so many parameters that we are, aiming at in development something, in developing some applications. So the workplaces are the way the workplaces are working is rapidly changing based on the rapid change of the environment, workplace environment. We have to upgrade our skills. That is very important. So this accreditation will teach us so many things. Like some college is going for some accreditation, so they will understand that time how important it is to maintain quality. So and what else the outcome based accreditation is focused on? The outcome based accreditation also focus on preparing the global engineers, not the local engineers for the local needs, preparing the global engineers for the global needs. uh, of course, outcome based education is not only for accreditation. Some colleges, they just want to get NBA accredited or NAC accredited for namesake. No, it is not for namesake. Institution should get accredited. Institution should get accredited for having quality of education. How do we assess the outcome based education? We can assess the outcome based education based on the curriculum and teaching learning process, and based on the assessment of the teaching process, assessment of the learning process. So first we assess the assessment of the learning, and then we come to transformational assessment, like how we need to change the teaching pedagogy so that student able to learn the course content. So this is a cycle process, as I was mentioning before. Now coming to why outcome based education. What is the need to have outcome based education? I want to ask question to the professors available in this particular uh, training program. So
Yes,
last
ma'am.
last 4 years, last 4 days, sorry, last 4 days you have been learning about why it is so important to have outcome based education. So my question is, why outcome based education?
I just request all the participants to just answer the question which is posted by Madam. Ma'am,
Yeah.
actually, I have some few questions to be asked.
Yeah.
I just would like to ask after you complete the session, ma'am,
Yes,
regarding
yes.
this assessment, ma'am.
Sure.
But of course, outcome-based education is very important, because we just not only wanted to find out what is the program effectiveness, but also we just have to concentrate on the diagnosing areas needed for each and every student for his or her improvement.
Yes. Yeah. Let me continue the program, and then we can have the question answer sessions. Okay. In engineering program, what the students are going to learn? Have you any time observed the AICT model curriculum? As a teachers, it's our responsibility to understand what is AICT is looking forward to in engineering colleges. AICTE has introduced the model curriculum. In the model curriculum, the structure is very clearly defined for engineering graduates, for engineering programs. A student need to achieve 160 credits in the undergraduate engineering program with breakup credits in various courses like humanity and social sciences, basic science courses, engineering science, professional core courses which are related to the branch of study, and professional elective courses again which is related to the branch of study like computer science or ECE or mechanical or whatever it is. Then open electives, you see AICTE has also given the opportunity for open electives to the students. That means students can choose other branch of engineering courses also, because in this particular era it is very important to have multidisciplinary skills. It is very important to have, because for example, if I am good at machine learning, okay, my machine learning applications are not only for the computer science engineering applications. It can also be used for mechanical engineering, for quality assurance. It can also be used for mechanical engineering for like hybrid vehicles. It can also be used for other branch of engineerings. So like if you take ECE, usage of sensors in robotics, in different ways, in different ways we can use the methodology. In different disciplines we can use the methodology. And then AICTE model curriculum has also introduced the credits for project work, seminars, and internships. And it also included some of the non-credit courses. There should be some criteria to achieve this mandatory courses. So what student need to learn? So that speaks about outcome-based education and what the students should demonstrate to the professional world. As I was mentioning, if I did my research in machine learning, then what I'm going to demonstrate to the professional world. And then how like how we are going to achieve the outcomes. We are going to achieve these outcomes with the curriculum, with the syllabus. Like as I was mentioning, AICTE model curriculum, there are various various branch courses like humanity and social sciences, basic sciences, engineering sciences. So each of these should have syllabus design, and then we should follow some teaching strategies, so we can build required skills and competencies so that the student can learn these skills and competencies that we are designing in the engineering programs, in engineering courses. So now let me talk about the competencies which are required engineering program, which are required by engineering graduates. So what are the competencies required by the engineering graduates? How are these going to be defined? These are going to be defined as program outcomes. In the accreditation process, what we follow is, we follow some graduate attributes. What are these graduate attributes? These are the graduate attributes which will define the competencies the graduate have. The knowledge and the competency profiles are drawn from ABET graduate attributes. These are the 12 graduate attributes on which a graduate is assessed. So as we are talking about assessment in engineering education, how engineering graduate is going to be assessed? What are student learning outcomes? A student learning outcomes are assessed on these 12 graduate attributes. I hope you all are having awareness on these graduate attributes. Let me recall once again. Student able to apply the engineering knowledge to solve the complex engineering problems. It is required a student to solve complex engineering problems. That's why he will be called as an engineering graduate. And the next point is the student able to analyze the complex engineering problems to draw the conclusions. So he should have analysis, and he should able to design and develop the solutions for complex engineering problems, like designing the system components, designing the process, for solving some complex engineering problems. And he should able to conduct the investigations of complex engineering problems to provide valid conclusions. And he should able to create, select, and apply appropriate, modern engineering tools to complex engineering activities. He should able to apply the reasoning to assess societal and cultural issues. He should able to understand the impact of the professional engineering solutions in environmental context. He should able to demonstrate the knowledge of and need for sustainable development. He should able to commit professional ethics. It is very important. And we have some mandatory courses to fulfill this particular program outcomes. So the main criteria to get accreditation to have quality of education is meeting these program outcomes. Graduate the young graduates should able to apply, analyze, and conduct investigations and commit to the professional ethics and look after the environment sustainability. And they should able to work as individual or a team member or a leader of a particular team, because when they go to a company, they have to work under somebody. So they should able to adopt those cultures, and they should not not only able to work in that particular environment, they should also be able to communicate effectively. They should also able to communicate the complex engineering activities to the members of the team. And when they are working on some particular projects, they should able to manage those projects, the financial issues related to the project management. They should able to handle that. And the young graduate should able to understand that there is a need for lifelong learning. It is required to have lifelong learning. We need to upgrade new skills, new competencies that are required to fulfill the global workplace requirements. So these are the 12 program outcomes designed by the NBA of India from the from the ABET graduate attributes. Every engineering college graduate should be able to achieve this. Then we can say that the attainments are achieved. Either it is a course outcome or program outcome. If course outcomes are achieved, if the student able to learn the course outcomes, if he is able to achieve the course outcomes, then automatically he is able to achieve these program outcomes only, because the course outcomes are mapped with the program outcomes. The course objectives are drawn from these particular 12 graduate attributes. Other than these 12 graduate attributes of the program outcomes, there are some, 3 to 4 program specific outcomes are also introduced by National Board of Accreditation, which is related to the branch of study. These are common for all engineering branch of study, and the program specific outcomes are specific to the branch of study. One second. So how do we assess what is the main objective of teaching? How the students are going to assessed? We should make up outcome as an objective of our teaching. Keeping the outcomes in mind, we have to adopt some teaching pedagogies. So as teachers, we should always try to create an understanding environment about the course to the students. So the insights that we have created in a particular course, which should lead to empowerment, they should be able to gain knowledge, skills, attitude, and behavior required for getting the employability. So implicitly, we know this, but we rarely stop to check whether that is really happening or not. We always need to try to introspect ourselves whether we are really trying to make a student understand the course, learn the skills out of it or not. So what is outcome-based education? Outcome-based education, it is beyond accreditation. It's a process which encourages continuous improvement. That means we always should look at how we teach, what is its impact, and how to achieve the set of objectives in a better way. If we always try to, have checkpoints in our teaching pedagogies, if we always have, interactive sessions with the students, if we are trying to create some impact out of teaching in a particular course, then we are setting up a continuous improvement system. What are the primary tools for the outcome-based education? As I was mentioning, the primary tools for outcome-based education is the program outcome mapping with the course outcome mapping. We should understand how program outcomes are embedded into learning outcomes of individual courses. So these 12 program outcomes which I was mentioning, as a graduate attributes required, okay, these will be embedded into as a learning outcomes in the individual courses. So each course is going to achieve some program outcomes. For example, there is PO1, applying engineering knowledge. So in applying engineering knowledge, how do we use the English course to achieve that particular program outcome? Do you understand? So the English course may not map the PO1, but there is some PO which is related to communication. So the English course in the engineering program can map to that particular PO. It is not that each individual course is going to map all 12 graduate attributes, right? Now, how we are going to find out this attainment? How we are going to assess this attainment process? We are going to assess this attainment process with respect to assessment methods. What are the assessment methods that we need to follow? What is the level of learning that you are expecting from the student? If you are expecting the high level of learning, we have Bloom's taxonomy set up. So with the Bloom's taxonomy, we will try to understand the level of student understanding, level of student learning. So the level of student understanding, we can assess with the various assessment methods with the usage of Bloom's taxonomy. After conducting the exam, evaluate the exam and collect the evidences. So assessment is not only exam, as I was mentioning before. There are so many things to it, added to it. So like direct assessment tools, indirect assessment tools. We have various techniques to, collect the evidences. Okay. And, develop some performance indicators, performance descriptors, through which let the student, know their feedback about the learning of the course. Analyze this data that we are collecting, the evidence that we are collecting out of assessment, and take a decision whether a particular course is mapped with the particular POs or not. This kind of decision that we are going to take in the accreditation process in outcome-based education. So what is the sequence? So we take some course. Okay. And we try to collect the evidences from that course, that is the learning outcomes these students achieved in that particular course. And from that course outcomes, what are the POs that they are mapped? So a given PO, so from which CO, from which course outcome the PO attainment is possible. So that mapping we are going to, that mapping we are going to assess whether it is strongly mapped with the course outcomes or not. If not, we need to try to change the course outcomes or the way we are preparing the assessment questions. So if the assessment questions is of some level and we are expecting the outcome in another level, for example, there is a PO1 which is like applying, and there is a PO which is PO3 or PO4 which is on conducting investigations. So which are which are at different levels of learning outcomes. So we need to map which CO is mapping which PO and what is the level of attainment, whether it is strong or not. That kind of decision we are going to take with the evidences collected from the course. When we deliver the course, we need to document the delivery mechanism, which is called course file. So how that course file worked as an evidence to prove that particular CO is attained with particular CO can be mapped with particular PO, and particular CO is attained, so the particular PO is attained, and the bonding is strong. So with the evidences, we can prove that. Okay, this slide I have taken from NBA workshop again, because it is here. If you see, it is clearly, clearly describing the process of outcome-based education. Here we'll have some PEOs set up, some student outcomes set up from the PEOs, and the student outcomes are from the course, different courses. As I was mentioning, the ICT module curriculum, like different courses from humanity science, from management, from basic sciences, from professional core, from professional electives, from open electives. Like we have different courses set up, and each course will have some syllabus defined, and each course should be delivered with some teaching methodology. Like for example, if it is engineering graphics, engineering drawing, how could you deliver that with a chalk and talk? So what is the mechanism that we need to adapt for that? If it is IT workshop, if it is some other course, so what is the course delivery mechanism? What is the teaching methodology that we need to follow? And also assessment depends on that. Depends on the course, the assessment method is going to change. So what is the assessment tool that we are going to use for particular courses? So that we assess the courses with the different assessment tools. What happens when you assess the course? You got to understand that what is the level of student learning, how far the student have reached how far the student has achieved the outcomes. That you will understand with the course assessment. So with the course assessment, the program assessment is possible. With the program assessment, the institutional assessment, whether the institutions is following standards or not, whether the institution have quality or not. So this speaks the outcome-based education. Coming to transformational assessment that I was talking about, what if student is not able to achieve the outcomes? If you see here, student outcome plays an important role. After assessment, if we got to understand that student is not able to perform well in the examination, and what kind of transformational assessment process that you need to follow. So what is the goal of assessment is decision making. The decision is made based on the information, based on the evidences. That is the conduction of exam or assignments that we gave, the projects that we assign to students, the models that we ask them to design. Based on different assessment, we will come to a conclusion that the students has not achieved some, because we put some threshold, some minimum threshold to that. whether the student follows that minimum threshold or not. If the student is not able to achieve the minimum threshold that we have set up in the assessment process, then we say that the performance is not up to the mark. Then we need to follow this transformational assessment, like changing the pedagogy, modifying the courses or facilities. So if some facility is required to learn, some facility is required to improve the learning capacity of the student, then providing those facility in the colleges. And the final step is the redesigning of curriculum. So these are some of the aspects about assessment when a student is not able to achieve the set up learning outcomes. As I was mentioning, assessment is not equals to exams. Okay, so what do you understand with this slide? So what do we understand with this slide? Here a student is just memorizing the concepts for the sake of exam, just for the sake of exam, just for the sake of the assessment. After the exam, he tries to forget it forever. So exam is nothing but the silent killer of learning. So how can we address these problems? How can we improve the student learning outcomes? So what is the mechanism that we need to follow? So key principles of assessment. What are the key principles of assessment? Assessment is more than grades. Assessment is feedback for both instructors and students, as I was mentioning before. Assessment drives student learning. So as I was mentioning, the outcome-based education can be calculated, can be assessed based on the information. Collect the information about the student learning capacity through the results of the relevant exam, from the assignments, from the lab practices, from the projects. Build this data collection as part of course delivery. After collecting this data, analyze this data. Okay, find out whether what extent the student outcomes are being attained. So the results of these evaluations must be systematically utilized as input for the continuous improvement of the program. Continuous improvement is what required in outcome-based education. So these are the questions that we need to consider when we are trying to achieve the outcome-based education. So how well are students currently performing, and what are they poor at? What do students currently do with their time out of class? Do they spend enough time which is distributed evenly enough learning? So after going to home, what they are going to do? How is their learning behavior influenced by the current assessment methods and tasks? How else might students gain useful feedback quickly enough and cheaply? How might students' learning time be captured in sufficient quantity and with an appropriate distribution across the course without increasing tutor efforts? So what learning benefits might accrue from students doing some of the assessment for themselves and are each other the teachers currently do for them? So these are the questions that we ask for ourselves to improve the teaching learning process. So this is the very common assessment that you that you must have come across when you were working on National Board of Accreditation or any other accreditation process. You must have come across these kind of assessment tools. Direct assessment tools, indirect assessment tools. If you see, direct assessments is going to assess the course outcomes and the program outcomes of the program through test assignments, laboratory exams, seminars, through industrial trainings, through internships, through projects. The indirect tools will also try to assess the program outcomes, course outcomes, not with the tests, with the surveys. We perform course and survey. We give some grading scales. We give some rating scales to the students. Based on the rating scales, we try to find out that the particular course learning outcomes are achieved or not, particular course outcomes are attained or not, so that particular program outcomes are attained or not. So tests are going to, the PO 1, 2, 3, 4 is going to attain by the test, and through assignments, the PO 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 11, 12 is going to attain. Like different assessment methodologies, different assessment tools that we follow to, achieve the program outcomes. The program outcomes are achieved through the student learning outcomes from the different courses. So what are the assessment methods that we follow? Give me 5 seconds. Yeah. So what is assessment? So till now, all these 4 days and today's session also, you are just hearing about only one term, assessment in engineering education. And in engineering courses, that what we are going to assess, like program is there, so some graduate attributes, whether the students are learning or not, that we are assessing. So what is an assessment is nothing but it's a process. It's a process followed to evaluate whether the course outcomes and program outcomes are achieved or not. So assessment is an integral part of a course curriculum. It is an essential component of teaching learning process. So there are 2 types of assessment methods that are followed for the engineering courses: formative assessment methods and summative assessment methods. What are formative assessment methods? When these assessment methods are going to be used, when we are teaching, at the time of teaching itself, we will try to apply this formative assessment methods. For example, every day when you have a lecture hour, at the end of the lecture hour, you will try to take feedback from the students, or you will try to give some tests to the students to understand their learning. So you will try to have some classroom discussions. You try to give some clicker questions. So you try to give them some low stakes group work, which can be resubmitted if particular performance is not achieved. So you will give them weekly quiz, so which is not dragged till end of the program. These assessment methods are during the course of study, during the course learning itself. So these are the examples of formative assessment methods. So here there are some key principles that I would like to give to the instructors for making students to achieve outcomes. So instructors can help students to grow as learners by actively encouraging them and engaging them to self-assess their own skills and knowledge retention, and by giving clear instructions and feedback. So if you see this particular slide, you'll understand what is good assessment and feedback practices an instructor should follow. An instructor should, define a criteria which will make a student understand what is good performance is about. For example, like for 100 marks, there is a, exam. Then, so what is the criteria that you want to give to the students to, make a student understand that this is good performance. Getting 80% or getting 90% or what? So we should have, as an instructor, we should have, clearly defined performance indicators and rubrics. And these rubrics, these performance indicators that we are using for the assessment, these should be informed prior to the students. And this should be made aware to the students that this is the way we are going to assess your performance. Give students detailed and actionable feedback. So instructors need to continuously evaluate student outcomes with respect to performance indicators that we have set up. For example, like 30%, 40%, 50%, 60%. So whatever the performance indicators we have set up, we always try to evaluate student and give them feedback for their continuous improvement. And the feedback provided by instructor must be, as I was mentioning before also, whatever the feedback that we give, that must be in a way to correct the students, and which should be forward looking, not just evaluative. So we should always try to encourage students self-reflection. Students should understand their capabilities themselves. We should always encourage them to understand their capabilities themselves. Ask them to describe the characteristics of their best work. Ask them to describe the qualities that the best work possess with. Engage them in group discussions. Encourage teachers and peer dialogue around learning. After completion of learning, you conduct some assessment and provide comments on their learning. Give a peer dialogue. Give a comments on their learning, which will help students to learn better. Promote positive motivational beliefs and self-esteem. You always assure that you genuinely care about their development, because it will encourage them to engage themselves in self-learning. Provide the opportunities to close the gap between current and desired performance. Help the students. Provide them opportunities. For example, you expect some performance from the students, that is desired performance, but the students is not able to achieve the desired performance, then give them a chance to resubmit the assignment or resubmit the test or conduction of the experiment or something like that. In internal evaluation assessment, in internal evaluation process, in internal assessment process, you help them in achieving the learning outcomes so that they can concentrate on achieving the goals at the end of this program. And collect information which can be used to help reshape teaching. Collect the information about student learning through assignments, tests, written submissions, so that the teaching pedagogy can be reshaped for addressing the student difficulties in learning. So we always need to shape our teaching with respect to the difficulties that the students facing in the learning environment. So these are the 10 principles which describe like what an instructor should follow to change their pedagogy when student is not able to meet the learning outcomes. And another type of assessment method, that is summative assessment method, which is obtained at the end of the course program, end of the course or program. So the purpose of this summative assessment is to document student learning. So it is designed to capture student achievements at the end of the program. Like we conduct the end of the examinations, end examinations to find out the student achievement in specific courses. So why summative assessments are very much important? Because they are at higher stake. They cannot be resubmitted as formative assessments. So the summative assessments are, is done in two ways. One through continuous internal evaluation, as we have like midterm examinations, for laboratory courses, midterm examinations, and also we'll have semester end evaluation for the theory and laboratory courses. So the examples of summative assessments include instructor created exams, standardized tests, projects, presentations, essays, final grades. So the instructor should follow clear rubrics, that is performance indicators and grading criteria, and these to be informed prior to the students in summative assessments, so that the students will able to achieve those. So as I was mentioning, summative assessments are usually higher stakes, which involves higher risks than formative assessments. So we should set up some goals for the students, and we expect students to reach those goals through the learning opportunities. So what are the instructor strategies? What the instructor should follow to make a student achieve the goal with the summative assessment methods? The instructor should use a rubric or table of specifications where the clear performance indicators are mentioned, and which should be informed to students clearly before evaluating, so that the student able to understand that yes, so this is the level that I have to reach. So this is the level of learning that I have to acquire. And we have to design clear and effective questions. The questions design should be aligned with the criteria. So what is the criteria that we are, creating? The rubric that we are designing, the performance indicators that we are mentioning in the designing the rubric. So these questions that we design should be aligned to that. So assess comprehensiveness. So you follow, you conduct the assessments for the total course content. That is assessing comprehensiveness. Make the parameters clear. That is, what are the grading standards that you set up? What is the length of the assessment? What is the depth of response that you require? What is the time and date of the assessment? So these parameters, you make it very clear to the students. And like if you want to assess students unbiased, then follow this, consider blind grading. So most of the colleges which are affiliated to particular university, they follow blind grading only. So the student roll numbers, names, everything is not known to evaluator. So which is called blind grading. Through blind grading, we can be unbiased. Coming to assessment measures. So what are assessment measures? These are the tools we use to determine the level of student attainment. So what is the level of student attainment? To scale that, we follow these measures, assessment measures. So these are 4 types again: objective assessment measure, subjective assessment measure, quantitative assessment measure, qualitative assessment measure. In objective assessment measure, we assess the student with the multiple choice questions or true false exams, which doesn't require much professional judgment to score. Subjective assessment. In subjective assessment, we will get more possible answers of varying quality. So where we require professional judgment to score, one should have a knowledge about that particular subject. One should have knowledge about that particular course. Then only we can evaluate. So professional judgment is required for the varying, quality of many possible answers. Quantitative assessment measure. So where we'll have a predetermined response options. So that can be summarized into meaningful numbers and analyzed statistically. For example, Likert scales. If you see, this is the Likert scale, where we have a predetermined response options, whether they strongly agree, or neutral, or disagree, or strong disagree. So each performance indicator, like each scale parameter is given a number. So we find out we summarize that, we find out the average score, and we draw some conclusion out of it. Qualitative assessment measure. So which uses the descriptive comments rather than quantitative. So these descriptive comments, can be analyzed by the students, can be used as a feedback, and can improve their, learning process. And qualitative assessment can be done with the, software tools also, with the sentiment analysis tool. What is the comment given, whether positive or negative? So what are these assessment measures provide? So these assessment measures provide some kind of quantitative and qualitative data that will inform the faculty that what is the level, what extent the student performance is being met. Then we can understand whether the course outcomes are achieved or attained or not. Why we use all these assessment methods? We use all these assessment methods to understand the strengths and weakness of the student performance, so that we can provide a sense of direction for improvement. So what kind of, so far we have discussed about different assessment methods and different assessment measures. So what assessment method we should use? What assessment measure we should use? It depends on the learning. It depends on the level of learning that we aim at, that we expect students to learn. Whether we expect the student to remember, whether we expect the student to understand, whether we expect the students to apply the knowledge they have learned, whether we expect the student to analyze, whether we expect the student to evaluate, give justification or differentiate something. So it depends on the cognitive level of learning. Depends on that we choose the assessment method. The higher the level of complexity, then we follow more complex methods and measures to identify the level of student attainment in a particular course and program. So the basic idea of attaining the program outcomes is from the course outcomes. As I was discussing before, program outcomes are embedded in in different courses. Each course is designed to meet some outcomes, like 6 outcomes. The student need to achieve the 6 outcomes at the end of the course after learning the course with the different learning opportunities. How these course outcomes are designed? These course outcomes are designed based on the rule of ABCD. Based on the ABCD model, what is ABCD? Who are the learners? What they are going to learn? Under what conditions they are going to learn? What level of performance that we are expecting, that is degree. conditions, behavior, audience. From this, we'll try to draw the course outcomes from the different courses which are aligned to program outcomes. So how POs are attained? POs are attained through program specific core courses. Okay. So here I would just like to mention that there are three types of behavioral elements, like what students are going to achieve after learning the courses, after completing the program, after achieving the program outcomes, knowledge in particular courses, skills in particular courses, and the attitudes. These are the three behavioral elements which are selected from the Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy primarily provides faculty with a focus for developing their course learning objectives. So in the course learning objectives, if you want to set up a course learning just at the level of remembrance or at the level of understanding itself or at the level of applying knowledge in developing some product. So based on the based on the Bloom's taxonomy, the course learning objectives are set up. Faculty can understand how lower level skills built into higher order thinking. So it starts with the base level, that remembering the concept that they have learned, trying to understand the concept that they have learned and expressing in their own terms, that is understanding. And then higher order thinking, that is application level. Whatever they have learned during the course or during the program, applying that knowledge for the development. And advanced thinking level, where they could able to analyze, they could able to evaluate and create complex engineering problem solutions. So if you see these course outcomes, you will understand that one level of Bloom's taxonomy, that is understand. I just want students to just understand something out of engineering physics course. I just want the student to understand the quantum mechanics, not that applying the quantum mechanics in some application. I just want the student to understand the fundamental aspects of crystallography. I just want the student to understand the electrons, understand the laser in physics, like understand the theory of free damped or force vibrations. So if you see, this is the level of learning that we set up. It is a Bloom's revised taxonomy which will let us know the level of student learning that we want to achieve. We just want student to remember the course. Out of learning, we just want the student to remember the contents of the course or understand the course contents, interpreting the course in their own way, summarizing the course in their own way, paraphrasing the course, classifying it, explaining it. Or you want the student to learn applying the knowledge that they have gained in the particular course to a familiar situation where they can apply that, implement it, use it. Or you want the students to analyze what they have learned, evaluate, take a decision on what they have learned, create something new out of what they have learned. This is Bloom's taxonomy. Using this, we set up the course learning outcomes. That is formulation of good assessment questions. How can you formulate good assessment questions? So for example, if you see at the base level, you have define, scale and sludge. We're just asking student to define, scale and sludge. How can you implement this? How can you improve this assessment question with different levels of learning? So at the base level, if you see, the question is related to only student remembrance. And here, if you understand this particular thing, here the level of learning is only related to understanding the concept. The questions will also be related to the keywords like compare, explain, outline, summarize, contrast, extend, derive, which is the understanding level. Here, if you say it is just remembering, like who, where, define, match, what, which. So we are using these verbs in our questionnaire. What is renewable energy resource? Write three possible solutions for this particular equation. So these are the questions that can be asked with the different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. We can improve, we can formulate the good assessment questions with different levels of learning, with different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. So at the application level, what is application level of Bloom's taxonomy? Students have to solve problems by using or applying a concept learned in the classroom. Students must use their knowledge to determine a correct response. What is the question that we can frame? We can frame a question like this: compare dia, para, and ferromagnetic materials. Evaluate the apply Cauchy's residue theorem to evaluate so and so. So this is how. So this is how we formulate the questions at different level, to assess different levels of student learning with the Bloom's taxonomy. You want students to, analyze the concept that they have learned, analyzing something. Like analyzing the question is one that asks the student to break down something into its component parts. Analyzing requires students to identify reasons, causes, or motives and reach conclusions or generalizations. So you can use the keywords in your questions like this: analyze, assume, agree, function, distinguish, classify, examine, categorize. So these are the example questions which I have taken. Distinguish between structure and union. So here, student able to apply, student able to, analyze and distinguish what is structure and what is union and conclude something out of it. Then evaluating. Evaluation requires an individual to make a judgment about something. So here he has drawn some reasoning, and out of reasoning he is trying to take some judgment. Students are engaged in decision making and problem solving at this level. Evaluation questions do not have single right answers. There may be possibility of multiple answers. Choose, decide, disprove, explain, prove, evaluate, measure, determine, dispute, importance, rate. These are the keywords that we use to formulate the questionnaire in this level of learning. And the last level, final level, is creating something new. The questions of this category challenge students to get engaged in creative and original thinking, developing original ideas, and problem-solving skills at this stage. Various potential responses for creating type questions. So what are the keywords that we use to formulate the questions in this kind of level of learning? So we use the questionnaire like we use the questionnaires which have the keywords like adapt to assess the student learning at this level, whether the student able to create something new or not. That kind of assessment we can do with this level of Bloom's taxonomy. So these are some example questions that I have designed, that I have formulated at the creation level of the Bloom's taxonomy. So the analysis of question paper is done on the following points. So number of the question, outcome tested by the questions. What is outcome? Just now I spoke about applying, evaluating, creating, understanding, remembering, applying, analyzing. So if you talk about graduate attributes, 12 graduate attributes, 12 program outcomes that I have discussed before in outcome-based education. whether student able to apply his knowledge or not, whether student able to communicate or not, whether student able to indulge themselves in a team or not, whether student able to manage something or not, analyze something or not, evaluate something or not, take judgments, make judgments, take decisions or not. So each of these outcome is tested by the questions that we frame. Specification on which the question is based, whether the topic covered or not. So specification on which the question is based, topic covered or not, form of the question, marks allotted, approximate time required for answering, estimated difficulty level. So this is how we analyze the question papers. So I want to show you. Yeah, give me a second. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am, visible, ma'am.
Yeah. So if you see here, so it's a course title, Strength of Materials, which is related to mechanical. So here course outcomes are defined. If you see the action verb, apply, analyze, design, conduct, prepare. So we follow different Bloom's taxonomy levels for assessing the courses, so that student able to apply, analyze, design, conduct, and prepare something out of this course. And then I want to show you this. So there is a topic mix proportioning in civil engineering, some civil engineering course, concrete technology. So here it is explained what is mix proportioning is. Okay. So here the topic explanation given. Now let us take a PO1, engineering knowledge. Apply the knowledge of mathematics, science, engineering fundamentals, and an engineering specialization to the solution of complex engineering problems. This is our PO1. Here,
Ma'am, excuse me, ma'am. A participant would like to see that mapping table, ma'am. Is it possible for you to share that screen?
This one?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah, this I'll come back to that. Before that, I would like to show this example. Then we will come back to this particular thing.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Because how we have given 3 here, concrete technology. Can you see concrete technology here? We have given PO1 3. For CO1 is mapped with PO1. So we have given an attainment level here. So the value of 3, how we have given that I am going to explain here. So how COs are mapped with POs? How strongly COs are mapped with POs? How can we take the judgment that how strongly COs are mapped with POs? For example, there is CO3. Okay, the CO3 that is like concrete technology. Okay, so there is no outcomes area. For example, that CO3 is like able to understand mixed proportioning techniques for field applications. So the CO3, the course outcome is just setting up a goal to the student to just understand the mixed proportioning technique. But if you see the PO1, which states that the outcome of this is that the student should be able to apply the knowledge of mixed proportioning technique in some field, in some application. So here, if you see the assessment that we have conducted for CO3, briefly explain the various methods of mixed proportioning techniques. So we just asked to explain the understanding level of question only that we have given, because the CO3 is defined to just understand to just meet the second level of Bloom's taxonomy, that is understanding. So the Bloom's taxonomy level that is followed in this course outcome is level 2. So does this CO reflects the intended measurement from PO1? What is the intended measurement from PO1? Applying the knowledge of mathematics, science, or engineering fundamentals and an engineering specialization to the solution of complex engineering problems. But this CO, does the assessment correlates well with the CO? In this case, CO does not reflect the intention of measuring application of either science, maths, or engineering principles. It can measure only remembrance in this topic. So further, the assessment does not test the requirement of application of engineering, which are used in mixed proportioning as per PO1. Hence, correlation between CO and PO is weak. Now you can see. Is this concrete technology? So what is that we have concluded here? The CO3 is weakly mapped with PO1. So can you see the attainment level here? So here the attainment level is just a dash. Why? Because the attainment level is weak. The mapping between, the correlation between the course outcome CO3 and the PO1 is very weak because it doesn't reflect the applying knowledge. So the program outcome is not achieved through this course outcome. The program outcome 1 is achieved through CO1. Let us see that example is available or not. CO1. Okay. Again, the CO3 is evaluated against PO2. What is program outcome 2 is analyzing. So here what is CO3 is able to apply mixed proportioning principles to design a concrete mix for field applications. Now we have changed the CO3 so that we can map it to PO1. Now let us see PO2 correlation with the CO3. Now here we have given a question, proportion a concrete mix for M40 grade concrete by IS method, given data, maximum nominal size. Like there is a question given like this. Is this CO reflects the intended measurement from PO2? Does the assessment correlates well with CO? Does we need to change the course outcomes with respect to the PO attainment? So what is the correlation between CO3 and PO2? Is it strong or weak or what? In this case, the assessment does not test the student's ability to identify, formulate, and do some research for arriving at a suitable concrete mix for a given situation, since many variables of design have already been identified in the problem. And hence the strength of mapping CO3 for PO2 in the above example cannot be considered good. So at best it can map well for PO1 as it involves application of engineering fundamentals. So here CO3 we have changed to able to apply mixed proportioning principle, which is an engineering fundamental. So the student is able to apply the mixed proportion principle to design a concrete mix. So it is well suited with PO1. It is well mapped with PO1 than PO2 because there is no analysis can be done with this CO. So this CO is failed to map to PO2. So the link is very weak. So that's how we form this CO-PO matrix. So I would like to give an example of the Bloom's taxonomy level followed so that we can map the course outcomes with the strongly correlated program outcomes. we can calculate the attainment levels like that. So let us come back to our presentation. The last topic of today's presentation, designing a rubric. So what is a rubric? So why do we require a rubric for assessment? In simple terms, we can say that a rubric is a scoring guide with some criteria for evaluating student work. So what the student work we are going to assess with the rubric design? Like we can assess the student performance like poster presentations, paper presentations, oral presentation, that is assignments, projects. The engineering courses, some of the engineering courses can be assessed by designing a rubric which acts as a scoring guide. So what the rubric allow? Rubric allow instructors to communicate well with the students about expected performance. So based on the feedback, they can increase the reliability of scores. There are two major categories of rubrics: holistic rubrics and analytic rubrics. Let us say what is holistic rubric. Holistic rubric is like you will have only one performance indicator to evaluate the whole, to evaluate the whole content. For example, if you see this is an example of holistic scale where you have only one performance, you'll have only a single score to give overall judgment. So like here, you want to judge a particular person, whether he is a good writer, excellent writer, average writer. The overall performance of the writer is given in a single score. So what is the disadvantage with holistic scales? They are not, very elaborative. They cannot provide much feedback needed by the learners to understand where they stand. So it does not provide much feedback. If you see the analytic rubrics, the analytic rubrics provides so many performance indicators, various performance indicators and various levels of achievements. Clear feedback descriptors are given so that the learner can understand where they are lacking. The strengths and weakness of the learner can be known effectively with the analytic rubrics than holistic rubrics. So there are, as I told, there are two major categories of the rubrics. Then coming to the topic, how to create the rubric and use the rubric. So what we have to concentrate on when we try to create a rubric for a specific student work, we have to first review the learning outcomes, the student learning outcomes that are going to be assessed. And then we have to identify the student work which need to be assessed for assessing the student learning outcomes. How far the student have learned that particular course and what is that he has worked on that, like he has created a model out of the course that he has learned, or he has created some kind of integrated circuits or a board, like if you take a mechanical student, like if he has created some kind of device, some kind of student work which we need to assess the student learning outcomes. Then we have to establish the criteria. what are the performance dimensions associated with the learning outcome? For example, if you're assessing somebody on their oral presentation to learn how far the students have learned the particular concept, you ask them to present the work. Then what are the performance dimensions that you consider? The content they have prepared, the way they are expressing, the way they are expressing the content, the communication skills, body language. So there are different performance dimensions. There are different performance indicators that you're going to associate with the learning outcome. And then after that, we have to identify the scale to create a rubric. What is the appropriate scale for measuring each student's performance on these specific dimensions? Whether holistic scales we require, or checklist we require, rating scales we require, analytic scales we require. If you want to provide detailed description of each performance level to the student so that he can improve himself, then you adopt analytic scales in creating the rubric for student performance assessment. No, you don't want to give much feedback for each performance level. Then you follow the other scales, holistic scale, checklist, rating scales. So the fifth point in creating and using a rubric is determine the range of performance levels and the program's target. What is the minimum threshold for success in achieving the learning outcome? That range of performance levels, you determine the range of performance levels. Like what is average performance? So you want to consider the average performance of all students as minimum threshold. Or you want to consider some percentage of students who has achieved a certain score target that the program aspired for. Are you want to set up some range of performance levels like 3-point scale or 4-point scale or 5-point scale. 5-point scale in the sense you will have like advanced, the grading parameters like advanced, proficient, developing, emerging, beginning. So various scales, like advanced is the high level grading. On 4-point scale, you can assess student with grades outstanding, good, average, poor. So you have to define the range of performance levels. If you want to assess students on 3-point scale, like student has exceeded the expectation or met the expectation, or student has met the below expectation, has achieved the below expectation. So we have to determine the range of performance levels very clearly when we create the rubric for assessing the student performance. Pilot the rubric. So we have designed a rubric with the proper knowledge of proper analysis of learning outcomes and proper analysis of performance indicator which are aligned to these learning outcomes, and different levels of performance level, different range of performance levels we have defined for that, and different scales that we have considered to assess student work performance. Then pilot the rubric. That means you give the rubric to your colleagues, ask them to use with some samples, student work samples, and ask them to assess. And you can also assess yourself taking some student samples and find out the efficiency of the rubric that you have designed against student work performance. So develop your sampling plan for selecting work to be assessed with the rubric. So after that, compare the results. The 8th point in creating and using rubric is compare the results with the program target. So as I was mentioning about program learning outcomes. So compare the results, whether that particular outcomes we intend are achieved or not. Then this is the example of holistic scale, where why the writer is excellent, the description, the judgment is given clearly. What is the disadvantage with the holistic scale is there is no much description or feedback given to learner so that he can improve. That is the disadvantage. So checklist scale, if you see this checklist scale, it is dichotomous. You have either yes or no option, met or not, true or false, like that. So you have these kind of rubric, like you have different parameters here, performance indicators like time management, organization, resource use. So we are assessing based on these parameters. If yes, it is checked. If no, it is checked. Rating scales identify a range of performance without specific descriptors for each performance level. So here we just give a comment like we just give a scale like whether he exceeds the expectation or meet the expectation or below expectation. For example, somebody has created a program. Okay, so let us take this example. Somebody has created the program. You want to assess the quality of a computer program created by a student. Then what are the performance indicators that you consider? Whether he has designed a program for what it is designed for, like for a specific purpose, whether it is designed for that to achieve that or not. It operates without errors. Source code is efficient or not, without errors, like code is running, giving a proper output or not. Source code is well documented or not. So these are the performance indicators that we use to assess a particular student and their work, like written a computer program. So whether the person meeting the expectation, then give 2 marks. So we have used 4 indicators, 4 2 is 12. So the maximum marks can be assigned to a student to assess the quality of computer program is 12 marks. We have 4 indicators. The maximum scale that we have given is exceed expectation, that is 3, 12 marks. So the minimum marks that we set up is our wish, like you want to give 4 as minimum. So here it is given criteria for success. You have given criteria for success also. So what is the score to be considered? Maximum score is 12. So what is the criteria for success is a maximum of one item is rated as below expectation. So only among these 4 performance indicators, only one is expected to have below expectation. All others should be assessed, all other to be scaled on other levels. Then analytic scales, as I was mentioning about, analytic scales are useful because they give very much detailed description about student learning, the student performance on their works. They give detailed descriptions. These scales give detailed descriptions so that it will be helpful for the student to improve their learning. So here, if it is poor, if it is fair, if it is good, if it is exceptional, here we are creating a rubric for evaluating a portfolio. So the requirement, what is the requirement of portfolio, whether the student learner has met that or not. If the portfolio requirement is exceptional, he has used some creative technology, he has artifacted well. These are the performance indicators on which the portfolio is evaluated, and this is the analytic scale rubric created for that. Here each performance indicator is described well. If it is exceptional, why? If it is good, why? If it is fair, why? If it is poor, why? With respect to the performance indicator, if it is portfolio requirement, if it is poor, why it is poor? If it is fair, why it is fair? So clearly feedback is given to learners in analytic scale rubric. So student can learn from their mistakes. That is the advantage. So there are benefits and also challenges in using the rubrics. Benefits are like, as I was mentioning, it will establish clear expectations and assessment practices. When faculty members collaborate to develop learners, it can be used to evaluate student work consistently. It makes more efficient to assess multifaceted examples of student work when have multiple dimensions of when student work have multiple features to assess, then this particular rubric will be helpful. Otherwise usually we follow quantitative measures. And then challenges in using these rubrics, it takes time and effort to develop. It need to include descriptions of specific criteria. For example, if it is evaluating a portfolio, so the portfolio requirement, it should be it should have clear descriptions of specific criteria, and preferably exemplars of student work to benchmark different levels of performance. So these are the challenges that we face in creating the rubrics. So here I have taken one example of a rubric that created for the practical dominated integrated course, Introduction to Engineering. You must have heard about Introduction to Engineering course. So in this course, how can we evaluate student performance? So we can evaluate the student performance, student work in two ways. One with the continuous internal evaluation, another with the semester end evaluation. So here we have given clear rubric, clear grading. For continuous internal evaluation, we want to give 40 marks. For semester end evaluation, we want to give 60 marks. Let us see how can we create a rubrics for continuous internal evaluation. In continuous internal evaluation, maximum 40 marks that we have given. So 15 marks, we create a rubric for creation of fabrication of different models. Like these are the models the student need to create. Out of this many models, the student need to create only 3 models. If the student able to create these 3 models well, then we judge them with the 15 marks, and we take the average of these 3 models for giving 15 marks. And if you see this is a rubric can be used for assessing the for evaluating the the fabricated models, the simple models that the student has created. Student has to create, as I mentioned, only 3 out of the mentioned models. And let us say a student has created some model, like let a student has created some wheelchair. So then that model we are going to assess with these performance indicators, like whether he has completed the model or not, whether dimensional accuracy is there or not, whether surface finish and appearance is there, whether record of work done or not, whether he has answered all the questions in the Viva or not. So these are the scales that we set up in the rubric. We have given excellent, good, and satisfactory scale. This is the rating scale that we have set up for evaluating the simple models. If it is satisfactory, then we are giving 1 mark, and we are giving description also. Why satisfactory 1 mark is given, why 2 mark is given. The comments are also mentioned here. I think there is a chart, right? Okay. Then as I was mentioning, the remaining 25 marks, the students will design, fabricate, implement, and operate a project. So 15 marks we have given for creating fabricating model. Now for creating project, we are going to give 25 marks for continuous internal evaluation. So these 25 marks are awarded for 2 reviews and 2 assignments. So for review 1, we want to give 5 marks. Let us create a rubric for review 1. So these are the performance indicators for evaluating the review 1, the project that the students has created, whether the objectives of the project are clearly mentioned or not. If clearly mentioned, then we want to give a scale, excellent. Otherwise, we want to give a scale good, satisfactory. So these are the three performance scale that we have. 3 performance scale that we have used. This is the rubric that we have created to review, to assess the review 1, which is for 5 marks. And then we have same performance indicators for review 2, for which we have given 15 marks. Where the excellent scale we have given 3 marks, for good we have given 2 marks, for satisfactory we have given 1 mark. If the student able to define clearly the project objectives, then we have given 3 marks. Otherwise, in review 1 we have given only 1 mark. Here we have improved the scale in the review 2 in rubric. So this is the rubric that we have created to assess the project review of the student for review 2. So this is how we create the rubrics. Okay, there should be criteria clearly mentioned. What is criteria to assess the project? Like project objectives should be clear, adherence to the theme, extent of implementation, how far he has implemented, what is the level of presentation, whether he has answered all the questions of the presentation, like of the content that he has created or not. So this is how we create the rubrics for continuous internal evaluation, which is for 40 marks. So there are 5 more marks for assignment. So 2 assignments given. So for assignment 1 is given from unit 1 and 2. And we have considered the Bloom's taxonomy levels also here for giving assignment. It is very important when you design some questionnaire, you should follow what levels of Bloom's taxonomy you would like to assess. Like what level of learning. Bloom's taxonomy basically define the level of cognitive learning of a learner. So here we have given 20% of the questions from the Bloom's taxonomy level 1. That is, the student need to just recall the topics that they have learned in the course, and they need and the 20% of the questions that are based on their understanding on the concept that they have learned from the courses, from the course, and 60% we have given on apply, because as you have seen, the introduction to engineering course is most of the part it have on fabricating the models, implementing the projects. So 60% weightage we have given on apply. Bloom's taxonomy level 3. Then unit 2. What is unit 2? We have to see the content. Based on the content, we have to decide that what level of Bloom's taxonomy. So from what level of Bloom's taxonomy we try to meet, and we try to give questions to that learning level only. So we have to see the content. If the content is related to only remembering the content and understanding the content, then that weightage will be given. Okay. Then semester end examination. As I have mentioned, we have given 60 marks for semester end examination. So if you see each performance indicator, here we have taken 6 performance indicators to measure the end university examination. Clarity in the project objectives, adherence to the theme, extent of implementation, extent of operation, presentation and viva voice, project report. So here we have taken 6 performance indicators to assess the project work done by the student. If he has done, if he is meeting all these 3 performance indicator criteria, then we have given 10 marks. So 6 into 10, 60. So what is the lowest level of performance, scale that we have given is 2. So out of 6 performance indicators, so the criteria need to meet is 6 to 12. So the minimum threshold we set up 12. So this is how the rubrics are created. So we give a clear criteria for getting the grades, for getting the scales. The performance indicators, the criteria is mentioned as a performance indicator. The student has to achieve this performance indicator to get the scales. Scale of 10, scale of 2. To get the scales, the student has to meet this performance indicators, achieve this performance indicator through their work. So this is how course outcomes are assessed. If the course outcomes are assessed and if the course outcome are attained, then program outcomes are attained. This is how we maintain the quality in engineering education. Quality assessment always plays an important role to maintain quality in engineering courses, so that we maintain the standards in engineering programs, so that the technical institute, the engineering colleges can be accredited with different apex bodies of government of India. Thank you.